Week 3. This is our third week of summer session, and the theme for today's yoga class is not the funny bone, ouch, is centering. So by centering, of course, in yoga, we love a good dual meaning, but for centering today in terms of Donna Farhi's ideas about yoga movement principles, it's the idea that we're using our musculature a little bit to pull towards the center of our body to give ourselves both stability, balance, and also it assists with alignment, in particular in the hips. So that's how it helps with balance. So for centering, the places that we're usually talking about are what we call in yoga the belly lock. And so that means we're going to just softly lift our belly button towards our spine. And it's not the same as like hollowing yourself out as much as you can, which actually is a yoga pose, but we're not doing it in this class. It's like a cleansing movement that you do where you like smosh everything in, and don't do it after you eat. It's good. Yeah, anyway, we'll save that for later. But by centering with your yoga belly lock, I mean a gentle, maybe 60% compression of your belly towards your spine. And the whole purpose of that is really about supporting the lower lumbar spine in particular. So if you've ever taken a Pilates class before, you've probably heard the term Pilates scoop. And if you are familiar with physical therapy or other kinds of athletics, the muscle that we're talking about here is your transversus abdominis. And your transversus abdominis, it goes horizontally. It's the deepest of your abdominal muscles. Do I have a little piece of cloth here right now? I think I cleaned my room too much. Normally I save a scarf down here for this. So it goes around your waist. It attaches to the bottom of your rib cage and the top of your pelvis. And it even has muscle tissues that go between your hip bones here and across the front. So sometimes you hear people say pyramidalis, which is just the lowest part of your transversus abdominis is how I think about it, right? So it's abdominal tissue, abdominal muscular tissue that goes horizontally. Most of us think about our rectus abdominis, which is the part of your abdominal tissue that is the 8-pack or 6-pack, right? Rectus abdominis erects you by contracting here. So it also like curves you forward or makes you curve your cat like a cat, yeah? Our transversus abdominis or belly lock is the tissue that goes all the way around and it supports the weight of the organs that are in your belly. And it also pulls, when you engage it, just slightly sideways on these lower back vertebrae. And your vertebrae are a bunch of little discs and bones that sit on top of each other, right? So if you had a vertebrae and a vertebrae, I like to think about it as like hamburger buns, and in between each backbone there's a little squishy disc of cartilaginous gel. And so I like to give you the visualization. Imagine everybody that you're eating an enormous burger. Yeah, it can be an Impossible Burger if you need, or not. Yes, enormous burger, like way too big. And you're gonna take a bite out of it. And what happens? The meat comes out the other side, yes? The same thing is true when you're thinking about your spine. If you have two buns on top of each other and a slab of meat in between, if you push right down into the center of your burger, like bone on disc, it's gonna be flat, right? The weight smushes down evenly, and that's the cushion that your back wants. But if you bite down on one side, then the disc, aka the meat in your burger, smushes out the side, and that's what you call a bulging disc in your spine. Now, by engaging the belly lock, you're just gently pulling the tissue flat. So maybe this shirt isn't the worst to use this example for. If this were my muscle tissue of my transversus abdominis and it were soft and I were bending, you can see how it makes really like a lot of wrinkles, this tissue, yeah? But if instead I pull that tissue tight, you can see how there are fewer wrinkles. And that is what happens with your back bones. If you're slightly engaging this muscle. You're gonna like smooth it all out so that as your spine bends to the sides and the front, there's a more equal pressure between the backbones and the discs, and you're less likely to bulge a disc or squish out the meat from your hamburger bun by doing something, because you're slightly engaged and you're giving it that horizontal support. So that's why we're talking about belly lock today. Not because your belly needs to look a different way. It's not because your belly should have shame about the way that it looks. And I want to encourage you all to rethink how we think about our bellies. Our bellies are the place where we give ourselves nourishment. If you're a woman, your belly is the place where you create life. It's where our diaphragm drops down to make more room for our lungs to bring oxygen. They're really important parts of our bodies, and they don't need to be shaped flat. That is not the goal of talking about a belly lock. A belly lock is really about protecting your spine, yeah? So as I remind us today to like gently lift it in, remember it's not about being tight and hard, it's just about being supportive through this area, and to feel in exchange for this centering of the belly, a lengthening of your spine in the back. All right, so that's your belly lock. The other place we're gonna center a lot is between your shoulder blades and your spine, right? So if I'm slouching forward, my shoulder blades are really far apart. But if I am standing up straight, I'm gonna take my shoulder blades, which are these triangles on the back of your back, these bony triangles, and I'm gonna anchor them not just together and up, but together and down. So if you've ever had someone tell you to drop your shoulders to sit up straight, and that seems a little bit nonsensical because that's not it, right? Actually, what we want to think about is activating by centering our shoulder blades down towards the center of the body here, yeah? The other way we're going to think about centering today is left to right. So we'll be talking about forward and back, left to right, with the center of gravity, which for women is pretty much like a few inches below your belly button. Some people are a little higher, a little lower, but down here in the center of your pelvis. And also we're going to think about centering in terms of your center line. So this is all the different centering vocabulary we're going to use today. So my center line is almost always going to go through the crown of my head, nose, chin, spine, sternum, solar plexus, belly button, pubic bone, and down between my legs. So if I'm really wide, my center line is down in the middle here. If my legs are close together, my center line is going to be right before my feet, between my feet. And if I'm only on one foot, my center line needs to shift so it's over one leg. So we'll be talking about all of that, moving towards that today. We'll also do our first arm balance. Yay! So we're going to do wide angle pose, and that I think is our big overview. Centering, shoulders back, belly softly, and sometimes ribs together. And and legs, yes. Okay, so this center line in the middle, whether we are wide or narrow, when we're calling for centering as our yogic movement principle together with these legs, we're going to think about pulling and squeezing our legs together. So just before we get started, please take two hands between your legs and smash your fists together with those inner thigh muscles for a little bit here. And we're going to do a little bit of pressure in and out with the inner thigh muscles because it really fires up all of the muscles in your hips that help us have balance as we do crazy wild things. Okay, that said, let's begin on the floor. I will start our music. We'll go through our practice today. You don't need bricks, but if I can find my bricks in a hot second, I will bring them in so that you have the option of using a brick with your practice if you want. All right, music. Of course, you can begin by sitting on your brick. Take a moment to slow our breath down. So let's start today with your your right hand, palm up on your knee. We want to let that palm relax open as though it's accepting of breath. And just let yourself slow your breath down and think for a moment about being open in your practice. Starting with that palm. And then also with your mind. Giving yourself permission to feel your body. And setting the intention today for a curious playfulness. Curious so that we can discover new things about how our bodies are working and feeling today. And playful so that we can enjoy the looseness of a practice without judgment. Start to spread those breaths wider throughout your chest. And I invite you to take your left hand now to your belly and just give it a little rub. And that can be hard at first to experience the feeling and texture of the skin and of your touch. Without judgment, just accepting, hello belly. Thanks for letting me eat and be alive. I look forward to nurturing my relationship with you. And let your next few breaths settle in on this idea. To be curious about nurturing a relationship with yourself. Let your breath come into your belly, expanding it with warmth, and exhaling with softness. Next breath, expanding, feeling your spine lengthen a little bit. Little sensation of radiation. And this time as you center, think about that transversus abdominis helping you to press the air out of your belly, letting your diaphragm tighten. Inhale, expand. Your belly softens and gets out as it makes room for the air to fill your lungs. And we'll exhale, pushing the air out by gently tightening our belly. Lovely. Both palms up on the knees. 2 more breaths here. Exhale, pull your shoulder blades down and back towards the bottom of your rib cage. Inhale, lengthen the body, radiate through your fingertips and the tips of your ears and your skull. Knees flaring open. Exhale, shoulders down and belly locks in, pressing the air out. All right, let's open those eyes. Big breath in with your arms coming up. Exhaling down the center 3 more times at least. And I try and keep this warm up very similar here. Why is that? Because we're creating a physical ritual that tells your body now is the time for our practice. Our bodies work in unison with our hormones and our minds to create a hormonal sense of well-being, and that can be Endorphins, it can be adrenaline. Exhale, roll down to the front. Can also be fight or flight syndrome. So by slowing down our breath and moving through the same motions, we help to stimulate the entirety of our being to shift into a curious and still presence of mind. One more breath here, really release the back and the hips. Inhale, rolling up. Big reach over to your right. Drop those, center those shoulders down. Big breath in. Circling the arm as big as you can. As you reach diagonally back here, I like to imagine that I'm wiping my palm on the back wall. I want you to feel that shoulder rolling open and back behind yourself. And we'll come on up to the other side. Radiate those fingers. Let your shoulders come up for a second. And then exhale, anchoring those shoulders down. Gather your belly in softly to lean to the other side. And notice how that centering of your belly lock helps to keep your hip rooted down to the floor even as you lean. Yeah, and we want that. There's a temptation to like get farther over by floating your hip up, but that doesn't give you the same abdominal muscle stretch. So centering that shoulder blade down your back keeps the neck long, makes space for the neck stretch. See if the centering of your belly lock can also deepen your breath. So big breath in and get soft. Big exhale, a little pressure to push the air out. Lovely. Inhale brings you up. I'm going to center those shoulders down and back. I'm going to take my elbows in and brush the inside of my arms against my rib cage to put my feet on the my hand feet on the floor. And go ahead and open those hips. If you want, you can press them up, or you can just open your chest with your hips on the floor. And I wanted to remind you guys of something, if I haven't before, which is that here on the video, I am flipping my left and right for you when I'm facing the front. Go ahead and let those hips down. We're going to inhale up. We're going to switch our legs. Come back here. So that is to say, this is your right. I should look like a mirror to you, but it's actually my left. However, when I turn my body to the side, like this, I'm going to switch back to my proper right hand sometimes so that we look like we're two people doing the same thing standing next to each other. But you do not need to switch sides in the middle unless I'm letting you know that it's time to switch sides. So I know that some folks were writing to me in their, go ahead and twist to your left side, in their comments that they were a little bit confused about left versus right. I will try and use the word that goes with your body. If I'm facing you, I will try to be your mirror. And if I change to the side, then I usually match myself back up to hopefully make it a little bit less confusing. All right, breathing in. Exhale, twisting. And inhale. Curve your body back. Go ahead and grab your knees here and pull your belly in. Really round that back. Let your chin drop to your chest and pull that belly lock in. Feel yourself lifting up from the pelvic floor, from the root bandha, as they call it in yoga, and opening up that space between your shoulder blades. Maybe even feeling your neck and shoulders stretch with the pressure of your knees into your hands. And we're going to lift up, radiate through the spine, recenter those shoulders down, take your hands back. Option to lift the hips, but certainly spreading open the ribs of the rib cage. Reaching the neck back. And chin to chest always first. When we come back up, we're going to send our feet forward, sliding them out just slightly from your body. Go ahead and take those two fists between your hands, and I want you to feel the power of centering through your legs. All right, so I'm taking two soft fists, placing them just above the knees, and squeezing together until I'm really smashing my hands. I'm going to take a big breath in, radiate through my spine, and then I'm going to exhale, pulling my belly button to my spine with that belly lock, exhaling and curving down. And inhale, squeeze your hands some more, lifting up through the lower back. And exhale, curl it down. I'm really trying to compress in the belly there. One more time, shoulders back. Exhale, squeeze your legs, squeeze your belly, and go ahead and come on down to your back. We're gonna lift our bellies up, squeeze your legs together, pull it in tight. Big breath in, deepen that belly, still lifting up. I'm flaring my toes for a little fun here today. I'm squeezing my thighs back together. I'm going to reach over to the right side. Can you center the belly back down as you reach? And center. Find that tightness. Then other side. And center. And head, neck, and shoulders down. We're going to take our hands between our legs and squeeze and reach those heels a little bit. I'm going to let go there, but I'm going to keep the squeeze together. If you have a brick, I invite you to place your brick between your knees for the next segment. And keep the squeeze on that brick. Anything lying around that you have will work for that squeezing. Could be a pillow, could be your sweatshirt, anything you like, yeah? We're going to keep that squeezed tension to wake up the inner thigh muscles. Big breath in, hollow up, belly lock. And we're going to place our arms on the mat and just barely lift your tailbone off the floor. Feeling your abdominal fire, lifting, hollow up. Head, neck, and shoulders if you want a little more fun. Maybe a little pulse. Can you lift your tailbone off the floor? And let it go. That's enough for right now. Come on up to the front of your mat. And we're going to talk about actual warrior one this week because we've been doing all high lunges, but today our sun salutation is going to be with a warrior one. And the big thing about centering in warrior one is that the act of pulling those thighs together will help you to square your hips to the front. So the first thing to know about warrior one versus high lunge is that the back leg is going to be 45 degrees out. So before we get started, I'd like you to just bend your knees slightly. Standing on your left leg, I'd like you to take your right leg to 45. And parallel, and side, 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 and parallel. And notice how moving your thigh open makes your hip want to go with it, but we need to keep your hips forward. All right, so we're gonna move through our sun salutation with warrior one instead of high lunge. So high lunge was straight back. Warrior one is going to be the same front leg, knee over ankle, hips square to the front, belly in, table lock. There's your high lunge. Warrior one, we're gonna turn the leg out to 45 and put the back heel down. Watch this back ankle heel. High lunge. Warrior one. But your hips need to square to the front, and the way we do that is by squeezing those thighs to the center line. Also, one last tip before we go into that, go ahead and let's put our right leg back to high lunge. And then I would like you to step slightly out for your warrior one. Yeah? That gives you a little bit more room to get your hip towards square. If you feel your knee hurting in here, it means that your butt is not turned out, your hip's not turned out. You want to think about under butt, rotating that thigh open. Yeah? Can we have a little moment here? Yeah? Can you just flare those knees? Try it with your foot off the ground. Feel if you can feel the external rotators under your butt moving it. Especially if you swing your leg back and open like a dog at a fire hydrant, that'll get those underbutt working. Okay, here we go. Front of your mat, big breath in. Exhale down your center line. Inhaling up. Gathering your center through your belly. That makes you feel taller in the lower back as you arch up. Big breath in. Exhaling forward, good, good, good. If you have bricks, you can touch your bricks as you step your right leg back. Before we go into warrior one, we're still in high lunge here. Have a little rock. All right, looking down underneath yourself, stepping your right foot out slightly so that you can rotate it externally and put the heel down. And no, I'm not all the way to 90 degrees, just a little bit turned out. And then I want you to think about sliding that back heel towards your center line, and then you can come back up. You might find that you need to be smaller in your warrior one than you were in your high lunge. That's totally fine. Then you should get a big psoas stretch. Big breath in with those arms. It's really easy to let this go into your lower back. Just kick it out in your lower back, but I want you to engage that centering of the core now. So your thighs are squeezing to the center line, your belly button's squeezing up, and now your shoulders are gonna center down the back. Big breath in, press into the floor, and reach your spine forward. Keep squaring those hips, squeezing your thighs to the center line, your belly to your spine, your shoulders back. And breathing. If you need to put a hand down on your brick for a moment here, that's fine. Keep engaging that centering and flattening feeling. Hands touch your brick or the floor. Stepping up, change your back leg to high lunge, then step back into your plank. Shoulders center back, belly centers in. Modified plank is excellent, but keep lifting that core. And reach your heart forward with centers back, shoulder blades centered back to go down through chaturanga. And inhale up. As you do that, can you start to think about bringing and keeping your legs together? Exhaling back to the floor. Inhale, keeping those elbows in. To your downward dog. Walk your dog. Walk the dog. And walking your dog means your hips can move. It means you can tip to one side and the other. And then we're going to let both heels come down again. Roll those shoulders back. Feel how your shoulder blades can slide away from your ears and towards your pelvis. Because gravity's helping you. Imagine your spine here sliding with the weight of your head towards the space between your thumbs. And then a little centering in these elbows and arms here. We're going to think about rolling our elbows towards each other and in. Inhaling your right leg up. Staying right here in a three-legged dog. Looking underneath yourself. Most of us want to put our hips somewhere that's not square. Can you square those hips? Can you squeeze that leg to the center line but not past it? I know we've been here for longer than you have been here so far. Pressing through your arms and fingertips. Big lift. Exhale, take the leg through and step on it in high lunge on the other side. Let your body rock a little bit to find square. And then we're going to look underneath ourselves, taking that back leg a few inches out wider, turning it out to put the heel down, re-squaring those hips. And take a while to find it before you come on up. Yeah, we want to build our foundation before we stack the house on top. I'm going to take those arms nice and big. Pulling our abdominal walls in, centering our shoulder blades back, finding your breath. We're going to open our arms all the way to the side like a big letter T, big breath in. Exhale, I'm going to rotate from my rib cage, so using that belly lock and the twist to turn to the side. I'm feeling a little bit more compression in my lower back here than I would like, so that lets me know that I can use that abdominal wall more to come more on top of my pelvis, and then perhaps readjust into the front leg. Reaching through those arms. We're going to exhale forward. If you have a brick, you can come your hand to your brick, wherever my brick went. So some of the places that I'm feeling this right now are my back foot, because my calf is quite tight today. So I'm just going to come up for a second and recheck that. I'm going to make sure that my hips are staying square. I'm going to take a big breath in. Lengthen that spine, centering my shoulders back. And then most of us try to reach this top arm farther than our shoulders can go. I invite you to keep your arm a little bit forward. And that might not feel as square, and that's okay, because what we want is for the spine and rib cage to rotate, not for the shoulder to rock on and back. So think about your hand or your palm being maybe 2 inches in front of your elbow and shoulder blade. We're going to take that hand back down. We're going to put both hands on your bricks or the floor and change your back leg back to high lunge first, so that we're stepping together through really square hips. And then we're going to inhale to our flat back. Take a moment to touch that lower back. Feel it long, feel it flat. Exhale, soft. Rolling back up. Breath in. Exhale. Hands to namaste for a second. Big breath in. Shoulders back. Inhale with your belly lock, lifting your lower spine, making space to keep your big sandwich stack all on top of itself, even as we arch, extend. Pass through flat back to forward fold. And back through flat back, and check your lower back again. Feel what flat feels like. Maybe even grab your hips and push your hips away from your rib cage. Drawing your belly in. It's okay to have bent legs here. And your left leg is gonna step back. Find your foundation. Change that back leg. Press on up. think about that back leg, whether you are actively rotating the back thigh. We want to rotate open the back thigh. Front leg is parallel. Lower back, if you feel things squeezing behind your belly button, remember we're gonna find more vertical pelvis. Shoulder blades are gonna go down the back to lift the arms. Flat back hold. I know it's a lot. Find your breath. Squeezing those thighs towards the center line. And palms down, change your back leg. Coming to your plank, modified plank. Lengthen through the spine, shoulders back, heart opens, elbows touch your rib cage as you come down through chaturanga. Inhaling back up and downward dog. Big breaths here in downward dog. Go ahead and soften those knees to the floor before we go on. And I'd like you to look at the relationship of your hands on the floor in your downward dog. We want our palms to be shoulder width apart. Our pointer fingers are pointing straight forward. Yeah? So if this were the floor in front of me, I don't want to be out here. I want to be right in front of myself. My fingers are making little L's. Yeah, and I'm thinking about rotating my elbows. So this is my elbow pointing sort of out to the side, yeah? Out to the side. I want to think about rotating my elbows down, or if you were making chicken wings, you're thinking about your elbows rotating into your rib cage, yeah? Even as you're here in downward dog. All right, we're on the left leg, so left leg's gonna rise up. Try and keep it square. Your left hip might want to go up with your leg, but we want to keep it square so that we're working the muscles on the inner thigh and the outside of the standing leg. Look underneath yourself. Look at those hips. Are they square? 2 more breaths. Are your shoulders centering down your back? Are you reaching through your palms and fingertips, really pressing into the arms of the floor? Knee comes through, stepping your left leg front, finding that high lunge first. And remember, we always want this knee to be over the ankle, not past the toe, because that's too much to do your warrior one and high lunge with a bent leg like that. So we want it right straight over that ankle. Hips are square, and then we're going to step the back leg out slightly to externally rotate it to put your heel down. Squeeze the thighs together and rise up. Left leg's in front. And we're in that last arm support for a little while, so I'm going to stretch my wrist while I'm here. Squeezing my back thigh closed to keep my hips square. Shoulders down, engage your belly. Belly lock is soft but strong as you twist towards the front leg, the left leg. Taking that hand down to a brick or the floor and rotate your ribs a little more. Remember that back arm needs to stay slightly in front of your ribs. Back heels reaching for the floor, turning out. And hands down. High lunge, step together. Up through flat back. Exhale, take it down. Rolling up, my friend. Good. All right, we're gonna switch gears now to a couple of standing poses, thinking about your center line. So if you want to stand near a wall or the back of a chair as we work on balance, that's totally fine. Go ahead and stand on your right leg. And remember that when we're balancing over a leg, and I'm talking about knees and toes pointing the same direction, what I specifically mean is, if you grab your kneecap, right, it's that round bone on the front of your thigh, that you want the big fat tendon. Yeah, so if you have a nice soft knee here and you kind of work your fingers around, you feel that big round bone. There's a great big tendon right underneath it, yeah? It's probably as thick as your thumb. And you want that tendon to be lined up with your second toe. So not your big toe, but your pointer finger toe. And your tendon should be in the same line at all times. When we're doing stuff with our feet and our legs, sometimes our feet go wider than the knee, or sometimes not as often, sometimes the opposite happens. When I say knee and toe, same direction, you want to look down and see kneecap, second toe. And that'll help protect your knee. All right, guys. So, right knee and toe, straight forward. We're going to take our other hand in our belly button, like right in there, stick it in there, and move softly until your belly button is over your knee and toe. And then shift center, and you notice I have kind of a semi-wide stance here, and then shift your belly button over your left knee and toe. And center, and side. Now as you get stronger and stronger here, you can start to not drift quite as much, but you do need to shift your center from what it feels like. Legs together, one leg. Legs together, two legs. And feeling that is a little bit easier if we put our legs apart. So feeling one leg, and you can feel here your hip kind of drops down to keep it parallel with the ground. And the stronger we get in that inner thigh, which holds the pelvis in place, and the outer thigh, which keeps our weight lifted up over it, the less severe the drop is. We don't want to go way out and be like sassy pants land. We just want to be slightly over. So as you rock back and forth a couple more times, bring your feet a little bit closer each time. Turn to the side. And just feel that side to side shift. All right, go ahead and take a big wide step again. And we're gonna shift onto your left leg, so your right leg is up. And I'd like you to take that right leg slightly forward of your body. This is a big trick in dance where when we're moving across the stage, flat to the screen, it looks like we're doing like a perfect split, but we're not really. From the side, we're really putting one leg slightly forward so that our back can stay flat and we can spread. I'm gonna make exactly that same shape to the front. It looks like I'm flat, but we're not. So, as we learn the star pose in yoga, we're gonna shift our weight onto our left leg. We're gonna use our belly lock. We're gonna let the right leg drift slightly front. I'm talking 2 or 4 inches, not all the way front. Just a little in front of the hip. And then lean your hips up, kilter now. Fire up the side of the hip. Belly in, shoulder blades back. Radiate through the spine. It's okay to leave that foot down, but a big tip in the torso. And we're gonna take a big hug. Notice this knee and toe are still straight forward. Go ahead and settle it down. Knee and toe straight forward. We're gonna start with the hug as we tip our pelvis over the right leg and extend it out. and squeeze in. Center the pelvis, a little inner thigh tension, and then release that to tip the hips. Your toe can still be on the ground. You can be grabbing a wall or a ceiling if you're in the basement like me. And hug it. And flatten. And now we're gonna tip to the left. Tip, 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 tip. Find that belly lock so the back stays long. Lifting that leg, reach. Radiate, bring it in. Good, all right. Now we're gonna do that same expanding, but we're gonna turn the legs out, just the standing one. So I'm gonna stand on, let's go ahead and stand on our right leg first. This time, we're gonna take our left knee, pop it forward, turn it out to the side. Small tree pose. Even here, my belly, my center line is not exactly in the center of my legs anymore. When I'm shifting to tree pose, I'm lifting up over big toe, knee, belly button. So I'm closing in here a little bit to keep myself balanced. Go ahead and find a nice casual tree. Bring your rib cage slightly forward if it's not already. Big arms. We're going to take our hand underneath that thigh. This is bus stop A position, is right at the top of the thigh. And just take the toe out. And bend it in. And take the toe out. And again, it looks like I'm flat, right? In 2 dimensions, not flat. Same thing. Take the toe out. You can see my leg is pretty much at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to scoot my arm down for bus stop B, taking the toe out. Woo! Gotta find my core again to find my balance. All right, let's switch sides. Let it out. Jiggle it out for a sec. Good, okay. Bellies engage, and that helps me to radiate down through my tailbone. I'm gonna put my left knee forward and shift over. Find my triangle. Just a small one, because I really want you to feel nice flat hips. And remember, we never put sideways pressure on the knee. So you're either below the knee on the calf or above it on the hip bone, but never right there on the side, because that's just too much for legs. All right, hips. We're gonna grab underneath the thigh, bus stop A. Think about your belly button. In this pose, this low extension, I'd like you to not be tipped, right? We were tipping last time. I'd like you to feel what not tipped is. What is a vertical pelvis here? Maybe a little further. Find your bus stop. Strong core. E. Maybe you're still at bus stop A, and that's awesome. Work where you need to work. Trying to get those hips onto your center line. Good, let it go. Whew. All right. All right. This is the part where you might want to turn the screen to the side, because we're going to talk about Warrior 2. So I'll give you a moment to do that. Those of you who can already see or you're not going to move, we're going to come to a nice wide stance and extend our hands to the side. And we're just going to curve our bellies in and release and curve in and release and curve and hold. Knees and toes are straight forward to start, please. And we're going to keep that curve and sit back. And that curve really, for most of us, is not actually a curve, yeah? So I just want you to feel engaged enough that your lower back gets actually flat. And find a nice squat position. And Center those shoulders back and feel the centering compression of that movement. And then press the earth away, legs break, compress again, and reach a nice flat back forward. Soft knees are totally fine here. Bellies are not soft. Spreading your arms wide. Radiating through the top and bottom of your spine. Bellies up, shoulders centered back, thighs centering in. So I want you to feel the inner thighs squeezing in, and that's what gives you the ability to cantilever out forward. Soft. We're going to turn both knees out. Yeah? Actively holding them out, knee over toe, same direction. It's really not all the way flat, despite what the video looks like. Yeah, it's really just a little, okay? Core, knees and toes open. I'm going to take those hands and I'm going to press them back into the thighs. This is called the horse riding pose, and it takes effort. So let's breathe together. Breathing into that belly. Centering the shoulders back, tailbone straight down. One more breath. Slow up. All right, we're gonna breathe in. We're gonna do some breath work here to make us feel fiery. Exhale out. In. If your knee's tweaking, more glutes, more open, yeah? You can come up a little bit, but keep seeking that weight even in your feet. Here we go. Hello, thighs. And press up. Good job. Parallel legs again, knees and toes straight forward. Go ahead and lean down. Soft knees if you need to. Drop your head, neck, and shoulders. Little inner thin thigh squeeze again. And relax those arms. Thighs squeeze together, belly lock, starts to roll your spine back up. All right, we're gonna start by turning your right leg out to the side. And that, we're going to warrior two. So we want our hips to stay square. We're gonna keep this knee over the ankle. And this back leg, unlike warrior one, which is closed hips 45 degrees, warrior two is all the way open hips and 90 degrees between that front knee and toe line versus the open, yeah? This is usually called the front leg in warrior two, yeah? I'm trying to keep my hips flat here. And in order to do that, what I need to do is to squeeze my belly in and a little drawing together of the thighs here too. And that helps to draw my weight into the full feet. Okay, shoulders are gonna roll down. So let's do 3 rolls back. And that anchors them down and back. And then I'm gonna reach those elbows out. In the full expression of warrior two, we would like our palms to be above our feet, our arches of our feet. So palms over our feet. So this may mean that when you're starting out, you can't get that low yet. You see now my palms are past my feet, but because my hips are flat and my knee is staying in the same direction as my toe, and this leg is in the same direction, knee and toe, that's okay too. That's just an earlier bus stop, yeah? So full expression of the toe is hands over, I don't know if I'm getting there, everybody. Hands over feet, And then when I get to about here, my hips are tilted. So I'm not gonna work there because it's too far for me. But eventually you get to a 90-degree angle in that front knee and flat. I can get there for like a quarter of a second. So I work where it's hard, where it's challenging, but where I know that I'm holding my alignment. Gaze for warrior two is forward out over the horizon. I like to imagine a hillside, maybe a moon. Let's add some arms for fun. And we're gonna have a lot of sensations today right here. In your inner thigh, medial quadricep. Now, even though we're reaching that front leg forward, can you feel the centering of your thighs a little bit here to help support your weight? We're gonna exhale, front elbow to front knee. My thigh is tired, so I bet yours is too if you're a regular human being. I'm coming to side angle. I'm trying to take this hip and pull it underneath myself, open the hip, lengthen my shoulder down, and reach one line from your hand to your elbow, to your armpit, to your hip, to your knee, to your toe. Stay low. Woo! Here comes your reward if you've stayed in it. Straighten that leg and it feels great. All right, I'm gonna come a little bit closer together for the triangle pose. Still one leg parallel, one leg front, one leg open. And this time we're gonna tip the whole torso from the hips, yeah? So I'm still one straight line through my spine, but I'm letting my hips tip to come to triangle. When we first do it, our hip goes back to the side. So I'm gonna try and be sideways for you for a second. I'm trying to line up this front foot to the arch. Yeah, so there's my warrior two. And now my triangle, I'm gonna try and tip forward right here. Trying to keep everything between two panes of glass. Turn again. Now we can rest a hand here on the thigh, here on the shin, not here on the leg, right on the knee, yeah, because we don't want to hyperextend that knee. You can also have a brick just inside of your foot here. And this is one of the poses that I thought was most illuminating for why I would want to use a brick. Because when we are holding this pose, holding our own weight, it's strengthening. I'm squeezing my legs into this position, I'm opening my hip, I'm using my core, I'm anchoring my shoulders. When I add a brick, I get to relax my legs a little bit because I'm not supporting so much my torso weight, and that allows me to get a deeper stretch in the outside of the hip here. So both are important parts of the pose. Check your front arm. Has it gone too far back? And can we roll that shoulder back and bring the arm too far forward and then slightly in front of the body? All right, let's bend those legs. Come back up. We're gonna switch sides, both legs front. And now your left leg open for warrior two. Here's our alignment rundown. Warrior two, knee and toe, same direction. Knee and toe, same direction, 90 degrees in different directions. Front knee over the ankle. If you're way back here, you're probably not getting deeply into the pose yet. If this is too much, bring the back leg closer. Yeah? So it could be smaller, but still in the over ankle. Adjust as you are capable of keeping the hips flat open. You want to keep rolling these hips open. Hopefully you're trying this and breathing through it as I'm talking. Front thigh is opening, rotating out. We're practicing that outward rotation with the back leg. Now it's the front leg. Big breath in. Our abdominal strength keeps our booties underneath ourselves. We spread those arms wide. And gaze off the front horizon. Shoulders anchor back. All right, add some breath. Now I'm going to take left hand to left thigh. So my elbow's going to my knee. And when I lean over, my hips tend to close. So I'm going to re-revolve that hip and chest open. And now we're in side angle. I'm trying to keep my shoulder anchored, my core engaged, my knee over toe. One line from my hand to my elbow, through my hip, through my knee. Finding your breath. Good, all right, stay low, come on up, here comes your reward. Stay with it. All right, press the leg straight. Oh, I like to heel toe it a little closer before shifting to your triangle. Remember, triangle is not about bending the waist. Yeah, it's about shifting the hips over. So you do want to feel that big release in your right side hip. Pressure anywhere except for right on the knee. So above or below is fine, brick is fine. And then we're going to try and keep that bottom hip coming underneath. Rolling your shoulders a couple times, anchoring them back. Take your hips underneath yourself to return. Opening both thighs wide again, like in the horse. We're going to take our hands and push back. Everybody just like dust off those knees for a second. We're going to do that effort, but we're going to push back with our hands. Structure in your arms. So I'm putting my weight into my arms, and that weight is going to push my thighs open as I drop down in the middle. Big breath, opening the inner thighs. Good. Finding your breath. All right, we're gonna come back up, and you're gonna come back up by squeezing your thighs together. Good. And parallel legs. And tip your pelvis forward for a flat back again. All the way down. Drop your head for a moment. See if you can touch the floor. If you can't touch the floor, bricks can bring the floor to you. Remember, anytime we're in a forward folding position, I do want you to softly lift that belly lock in, but I don't care about your legs being perfectly straight. Start bent. Healthier way to get down, and let your pelvis flip up. Yeah? Can you reach between your legs? All right. We're going to do a tiny experiment first. I'm trying to think to start up or down. Let's just start. I'm going to turn all the way around, y'all. Hello. Okay. Notice that when my legs are fairly close, my hands, I know, I've been doing this for a long time, my hands can definitely touch the floor. But the further that I walk my feet apart, the closer the floor comes to me. And this is going to make some sense having to do with what we next do. Because I know that sometimes, especially if you're not that flexible, and we're coming down to the floor here, so come on down with me. It can feel scarier because it's less stable to widen the feet apart in that wide stance. But remember, we're going to use those inner thighs to pull in to help to give ourselves balance. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use some isometric pressure. That means body against itself, to help you feel the hip stabilization that happens with your gluteus medius and minimus, and those are the muscles on the outside of your hip, yeah? So we're gonna come into a low lunge. If you have a brick or a wall or a small unicorn to lean on, feel free to use that. Our front knee is gonna come forward here, and we're gonna be squared as though we're doing a high or low lunge, yeah? And what I'd like you to feel first is to place your right knee forward and your left hand to the inside of your right knee. And what we're gonna do is come into our lunge, and I'm gonna press out a little bit, and I'm gonna squeeze in with this thigh, yeah? So I'm pressing the leg open, but I'm squeezing in with the thigh. This hand here could be on the floor, not so easy, on a wall, on a nearby piece of furniture, anything that's convenient to you. But we're creating inner thigh effort here. I'm just gonna check my chest to see a lot of people. Okay, thank you. Okay. All right, now that you've been squeezing in or centering with that front leg, we're gonna switch hands, and this leg can pretty easily fall out. Go ahead and let it fall out for a moment. Feel that stretch. So I'm doing a low lunge. I'm gonna turn to the side so you can see my back leg. Back leg is just down here on the floor. You can put padding under that knee if you want to. This side is gonna fall out, and notice my foot is opening off the floor in this pose, and that's because I'm keeping my knee and toe together. So rocking that out. You can have bricks or a chair. If you have like a folding chair, you can have your hands on the folding chair. All right, same action, but now I'm going to use this same hand, my right knee, to press in. So I'm giving myself resistance, and now instead of falling open, I'm trying to press open with that thigh. So really getting the sense of opening the thigh into the hand. Can you center your belly at the same time? Can you center your shoulders at the same time? So now I'm using my upper back and my belly and my hip at the same time. All right, release. Switch. Down. Squeezing in against the pressure of the hand. Feel how that squeezing in, if you're thinking about your back leg, starts to pull these hips to square. Feel that squeeze. All right, release. We're gonna switch legs. Go ahead and take a moment first before we move on and come to your child's pose. And notice if you feel a different sensation, different feeling in your left versus right thigh. Now that we've really activated that right hip. All right, we're gonna come on up. We're gonna take our left leg forward now. Find your low lunge. And we're going to use our right hand to push out while our left thigh squeezes back in to center us. Good, release it. Let the knee fall open. Stretching open, opening the side of the foot. Letting that knee and thigh rotate out. I'm going to turn on the diagonal so you get a different view. My knee and thigh are rotating out from my squared hips right now. And I'm going to bring myself back to square, placing the same hand on the outside of that same thigh. And I'm going to press my knee, my thigh bone open into that pressing hand. Now I'm trying to stay square. I'm just providing resistance with this hand here. So opening the thigh into the pressure of the arm. Arm is anchored down in the back, so I don't want my shoulder tight. I want it opening down. All right, and release it. I'm going to come in one last time, back to square. Squeezing in, dropping the hips through, centering the torso. So belly in, thighs are both squeezing to that center line, shoulder is going back. All right, let it go. We're gonna come back to child's pose. Pointed feet, pressing the hips down into the hips, and let a big crease in the hips happen. And big breath. We're going to roll on up. We're going to come onto our buns. And now, I haven't thought about this before, but I suppose we could do this portion up on a brick or two. We're going to practice seated what will become our first arm balance, yeah? So I'd like you to keep both legs super bent at first, like a big letter M, right? Dee, dee, dee. And then just slouch for a second. Bring your hands to the back of your skull and lengthen the back of your neck. Lovely. And go ahead and open your chest back up by anchoring those shoulders down. And we're going to bring our heels closer. But I want your heels to still be on the mat. So I am a little more than 90 degrees here, still just like 45. And I'd like you to experiment. So assuming most of you guys are not on bricks and you're out here, that's how I normally teach this. You could do it on a brick too. I'd like you guys to experiment with moving your legs out a little bit more so that you can lift the lower back using your back muscles to get flat. And then I'd like you to use these external rotators and open out. Yeah, like when we were pressing our knees out. Open out. Good. All right, now let's try. You can be near a wall for this. We're gonna try getting up onto your heels. Notice my heels are quite far away. They're more than the length of my hand. And that allows me to keep the heels down. So I'd like your heels down on the floor. And push your knees open with your elbows. And then feel what it feels like to lift up your root chakra, aka pelvic floor, and those belly locks. And see if you can find the place where you can, again, rotate your hips underneath yourself and draw up. It's a lot. I'm using my external rotators and my glutes a lot to really open my thighs, and that thigh opening is what lets me balance. Take an arm down and reach. Now my elbow is helping my thigh open. Feeling grounded into the earth and reaching up to your sky. And switch. And take it down, release, let go of those legs for a moment. Rock your thighs to allow your hip sockets to juicen up. Good. All right. So in between a little bit here, bent enough that my toes can touch the floor. I'm gonna lift up through my lower back. You could be seated on your brick. And I'm gonna walk my booty back enough that my pelvis, instead of being upright, can tip forward a little bit. So from the side, that looks like this. I'm finding the place where I'm walking my tailbone back so that my pelvis can tip forward. And you can use a brick here to make yourself something to lay on. But what I don't want is for just your back to curve. I'd like you to still keep that lower back shifting and leaning forward. So you're opening up your inner thighs. Now, if you are less inner thigh flexible here, your knees are going to be more bent and closer together, like closer to 90. As long as you're feeling the stretch in the inner thighs here, then you're doing it correctly. If you're more flexible in your inner thighs, those legs start to lengthen and spread, yeah? So work at the place where you're feeling your inner thighs stretch, not your upper back, not your knees in the back or your hip sockets in the back. We want inner thighs to get the stretch here. The other tip for those of you who are closer to middle splits is to take some fists, soft fists, and tuck them just underneath your knee, either right behind the knee or your quad, your thigh or shin, somewhere in here, to help make sure that your knees and toes, and this is true for all of us, knees and toes need to be pointing up to the sky. Don't let them roll in or forward, because then you'll be stretching a different muscle. So wherever your stretch is, knees and toes are pointing straight up, not towards the front, yeah? Knees and toes straight up in your stretch, not towards the front. A few more breaths here. All right, using your hands to bring your body back up. Love helping your legs back in after that stretch. Woo, noodly. All right, go ahead and take your right leg in close so that your heel is by your center line. And we're gonna bend that left leg somewhere near where you were working it before. You're gonna take your left elbow inside of that left leg. And we're gonna connect the back of the arm elbow to the inside of this thigh. And this is gonna be a theme in a lot of our arm balance poses. So let's take some time to really make it clear. Here's your elbow. This is the back of my arm. If I were standing up, this would be the location back here. Yeah? So underneath your tricep, above your elbow, this spot on your arm. Go ahead and touch it on both sides, because we're trying to give ourselves a kinesthetic awareness of the sensation of that part of your skin. So you're waking up that part of the skin so that you know when you make contact here. On your legs here, remember the beginning of class, we were squeezing our fists together into this location. It's not like right on the bony part, it's a little bit higher, but anywhere close to here is good. We're not trying to go for the top, we're trying to go for the inner thigh here. All right, back of the lower back of the arm into that spot here. And all I'm gonna ask you to do is more isometric pecture. So I'm gonna use the anchoring of my shoulders, the shoulder blade centering, pulling my shoulder blade back, pushing my elbow into that thigh, squeezing my thigh in, yeah? Can you take this hand that's doing all that work and spread it out big and tall with your pointer finger straight up? Sitting up tall, gathering your belly. So I'm making a load of pressure over here on the left side. And then we're gonna switch. Back of the arm, inner thigh, pointer finger up. I'm gonna bring it down. I'm gonna push out. I'm gonna lift my torso front by anchoring my shoulder forward. Abs are in. Thigh squeezes into that elbow, elbows pushing back. Creating heat with isometric activity. So I'm really pushing hard, like makes me start to sweat. I'm pushing that hard. All right, release. Shake out your hip flexors. Yeah. If you feel like your hip flexors are just gripping like crazy during this, which happens when you're first building strength there, you can grab a couple handfuls of marshmallow clouds and gently tap them out as you shake them. Yeah, anywhere that tension is just hanging tight. All right, we're doing both at the same time. It's kind of like rowing a boat, yes? Elbows back, zipping up, belly in, root lock in, shoulder blades back, elbows press, thighs squeeze in, pointer fingers up. I know it's a lot of things at once. That's what makes it a fun challenge for a lot of years in a row. Make fire within yourself. Really press, really lengthen, centering those inner thighs together, shoulder blades back, bellies in. Good, let it go. Come all the way down. We're gonna come back up though, don't get too excited. Rock those highs. Tap them out because it feels good. All right. This was my very first arm balance. It was the first time I felt like I could maybe get into balancing on my hands. It's called a wide angle balance. And what we're going to do here is to set up one foot on the ground and one inner thigh, and we're going to shift our weight forward into a place to go. Okay. So let's start with your right arm. We're going to come back, I'm beginning my setup in that grounded malasana pose. And remember, this might look flat from the front, but it's really not flat from the side. So I'll turn to the side in a second. And I'm going to take my right knee bent, my right arm into the back of that, and find a place on the floor here. It will move. Yeah? And this time I'm going to lift the heel up. Yeah? But what we're remembering, of course, is knee and toe same direction. So see if you can find a place where you can lift a heel up and connect the back of the arm to that thigh. Maybe just try that with both sides before we move on. Pointer fingers are forward. Good. One heel, the other heel. Okay. Butts back down for a second. Sending your left leg out. And then I would like you to take your left arm. I'm sat on my buns for the moment here. I'm connecting my right arm and my right leg. My left leg is long. And I want you to just reach up in the air and push open here. Reach up, push open, reach up, push open, reach up, push open. Good. Okay. Switch sides. That is going to be your pose. So now left back of the arm, left thigh here. And I have not just my thigh, but I'm even trying to get as far as like across my calf and shin for fun. And reach. Opening both thighs, squeezing in, arms, shoulder blades back. Reach tall as you can. Okay. We're going to convert that activity into an arm balance. So you might be, if you're just on a mat, like a regular shaped mat that's not as enormous as mine is, you're going to probably reach your hand and face off the mat, so you're long ways with your mat. You're going to come down to a comfortable position here. Now, if you're less flexible, this left leg is going to move really far forward. So let me just turn sideways for a second so you can see. Really far forward left leg, right? Ta-da! Really far forward. You can take a brick out here for comfort and connect your right arm and right knee, and you're gonna turn onto this left leg, sort of like a warrior two, and slide out. I'm going to turn my body. Slide out. So then that reach we just did on the floor, now you're doing it on your right toe. Forward, 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 touch the floor and see if your right foot can come off. I'm going to turn one more time. All right, right hand on the floor. Pointer finger in the direction I'm going. Big connection back of the arm to inside of right leg. Shifting forward and balancing. Coming back. Take a break. So my long leg foot is staying on the floor. The bent leg and bent arm are taking most of the weight, and then the front arm teeter-totters you forward. Yeah, so that the bent leg can then come off. Let's try the other side. Big contact. Yeah, because once we shift onto the other hand, this foot comes off the ground and the inner thigh has to be stuck to the back of that arm to make this work. If your arm is straight, your leg's gonna fall off. Make sure that left arm now is gonna be bent and you're trying to get your elbow over the wrist on the mat. All right, here we go. Come on up as high as you need to come up. You can lift that toe if you want. And just before you reach it out, find that elbow over wrist connection. Yeah, elbow over wrist connection. Extending the right leg, reaching the body out in the middle of the legs. See if you can flop it open. You can put your head on the floor. Your first arm balance, yay! All right, arm balances put a lot of pressure on the back of the wrist or like in the wrist. So when we take a break, we're gonna make our wrist stretches. We're gonna try again, but I wanna give you a stretch first, yeah? So I'm taking my palm to the inside of my wrist, pressing not just my fingers, but my knuckles down so that you feel the stretch on the outside of the wrist. The stronger that your forearms, which is where most of the muscles that power your hands get, the stronger this apparatus gets at pushing and squeezing, the less compression you will feel in your wrist. When we first get started, it feels like everything's just smashed in there. Yeah. If you really want to do arm balances, this exercise is a huge game changer. Make sure we stretch both of them, and then we'll try one more time, both sides again. I'm going to try and spell out some bus stops this time, okay? All right, both hands have got to stretch before we move on. We're going to try one more time each side. Okay. If you're like, I got this, I want to try it, just go for it. You want some bus stops. You could start with a brick under your buns. Does that really help? I don't know. If you're just working here, you could brick it up. Yeah? This leg doesn't have to be all the way straight then. You can just practice getting the back of your arm fully in contact with this thigh. A lot of the times in the beginning, our arm thigh connection goes swoop. Yeah? We want to use that thigh squeezing, elbow, shoulder press to keep that contact and keep tight, which means I have to use my abs to get my shoulders close to my thighs. All right, another way you could use a brick here would be to put it in the reaching hand. So this is my right side. I'm going to reach with my left. And I could maybe put my left leg not so far out and experiment that way. You can also use it as a place to aim your head for. All right, try the other side. You might feel like it's easier to approach from the top. You might feel like it's easier to approach from seated and push up towards it. We got lots of tools today. Knee and toe same direction. Right? Squeezing those shoulder blades back, pulling our belly in. All of those things together are what make up the strength to float. All right. Your choice now into your child's pose. Or if you want to give one more try in an even more ridiculous version, here's that. On my right side, this is bus stop Q, okay? Just for those of you who need it. My right side, I have my elbow into my knees. My left side, I'm gonna put my elbow into the back of my thigh. This is just craziness. Maybe you try it and you fall. And if it's just too much for you and it feels unsafe, then just don't do it now. We can come back to it next year or later in the semester, okay? So, right side elbow on bent knee, just like we did. Left side elbow on straight knee instead of out. We're gonna tuck it in for the crane crow. What? All right. Whoa. That's fun. Haven't done that in a long time. I had a little muscle spasm there. All right, I'm gonna try the other side with you. Yeah. Ooh, abs, hello. Okay. Last one. Then we're gonna stretch open those hips and have a nice, compassionate opening Shavasana. Just goes to show you, right? There's a lot of abdominal work going on, even though this looks like a big wacky splits and arm strength thing. All right. Whew. Yay! Okay, friends. Make yourselves comfy on your mat. We're gonna do a couple of openers of the hip flexors. We've done lots of inner thigh stretch, so I wanna make sure we open our hips and maybe your abs too. Okay. Let's start with, a lot of you are in child's pose already. So let's go ahead and come up. If you have a brick, you can sit on that brick. If you don't have a brick, you don't need to. You can also choose to flex those feet. So I'm in parallel hips here. And I'm gonna start by coming back to my lower back, drawing my belly in, lengthening the hips, and then arching. And then I'm gonna come to all fours, same thing. Lengthen and arch. If your wrists are feeling tender, because we've done more than you're used to right now, you can use fists. So I'm making little Cheerio / cinnamon roll hands here. And that way my wrists are straight here. But I'm gonna use my belly lock to curve and then release it to arch, pulling my shoulders back towards my hips. Inhale, flat. Exhale, curve, belly lock. Tuck your chin to your chest. Try to tuck your tailbone underneath yourself. Inhale, flat. Feel the long spine. Exhale, open those abs, shoulders back. One more time. Good. All right, I'm gonna come up to my knees now. I'm gonna try and use that same action, but up here. Arch. Tuck it underneath, lifting in my belly lock, and you can even press on your sacrum here. Press on your sacrum, anchor those shoulders back. Open the hips, lots of abdominal strength here for camel, and soften it, curve it down, tuck underneath yourself, coming to child's pose. And for my class, you guys, anytime we're in child's pose, you can sneak in that wrist stretch for yourself by tucking your knuckles to the mat and then pressing not just your knuckles down, but pressing your wrist over the top of your knuckles. So every time we do a chaturanga or a child's pose, you can be choosing to stretch your wrists at that time. Inhale, rolling it up. Belly lock. Hands to the sacrum. Camel. Make sure we're pulling up and in the abdomen so we feel long lower back here. Long lower back. It's very easy to press your lower back and collapse. That's not what we want. We want to tuck the tailbone up and lift our ribs up over the top. Long bodies up. Come back down again to child's pose. Good, good, good. Release those shoulders. We're going to come down onto your right side. And we're going to take this top leg. I'm going to lift it up to grab the front of the ankle. Then I'm going to drop it back down to parallel. And I'm bringing my your right leg forward for balance, so it's in front of the body. Then I'm going to take this leg parallel to the floor and press the ankle into my foot. So I'm opening up your right hip socket here. Try to keep the knee and toe parallel with the ground. I know it's really hard to do that, so if you want to open up or twist, but I want you to keep it all parallel. And feel that feeling of drawing your belly in. So I'm really active towards in the torso here and tucking my tailbone underneath, just like we were in the camel pose right before this, just like we were earlier in classes in the lunges. Good, release that. Now we're gonna do a slightly different version. We're gonna separate those thighs as much as possible. You can lean away from this if you need to. We're gonna take your back foot, this is still your left foot, and I'm gonna put my heel as close to my butt as possible back here. Let me rotate. Yeah, close as possible. So I'm trying to tuck it around. You're like in a pinwheel, yes? Then from there, I'm going to take the same idea of belly centering to lift, and I'm going to tuck my tailbone underneath and try and spread apart my thigh away from my pelvis. Spread your thigh away from your pelvis. You can lean away from the knee and open that thigh stretch up, but even better if you can get the thigh stretch to happen all the way in the crease where your leg plugs into your hip, because then you're getting the hip flexors. This back arm can stay up for most of us as we reach up and away. Good. Come around. Let's switch sides. All right, we're gonna lay on your left side, left leg's forward. Top leg, we're gonna grab it behind ourselves, opening up those hip flexors. Yeah, remember we often grab up here, that's okay. Bring the heel to your hip socket. Try and keep your knee parallel with the floor. Knee and thigh parallel with the floor. Re-engage that centering and tucking action. Your head can be wherever is comfortable here. All right, come on up. Wrap that puppy all the way back behind yourself. Open both thighs. And we're gonna open our torso away from that back leg. Lengthening between the vertebrae of the lower back by using that pelvic lock. Sorry, not pelvic lock, the belly lock. There's another lock, which is your pelvic floor lock, which is squeezing down at the very root. We're talking about the belly button coming gently up and in towards the spine. And this stretch, usually we start feeling it in the middle of the front of the thigh, but we want to move it into the hip flexors. One more breath cycle. All right, unwind it. Good, good, good. We're gonna slide our legs down for Shavasana now. Hopefully your hips are feeling open enough after that it's pretty comfortable to lay in a traditional Shavasana position with our thighs about 15 degrees apart. Let them fall open, however works for you. And same with our shoulders. I like to tuck my shoulder blades down and back into the mat with a nice long spine. Letting your palms face up. Letting your mat melt down to the floor. And we're going to softly breathe in. And exhale, letting gravity take you back to the floor. Inhale, letting yourself become aware of the sensations in your body without judgment. We don't have to label the sensations that are coming in. If you're feeling some tension or feeling tired or tight, instead of putting words and focus to them, let's accept them for where they are in our growing journey and breathe our breath into them, increasing oxygen flow to that part of the body, increasing our ability to rejuvenate those fatigued tissues. We did a lot of effort today, pulling our thighs towards each other and our bellies tight and our shoulders tight. So for our closure today, we're going to do some centering as tightly as we can and then releasing all at once. I'll guide you through it. Here we go. Breathing in, we're going to start by squeezing our toes and feet really tight. Maybe even your ankles and calves. Breathing in and tightening those legs and squeezing up to the knees. And when you exhale, really let it all go. Next breath, starting with your feet. Squeezing your toes and your arches of your feet. Squeeze your ankles and your calves and your shins and your knees. Squeezing up the thighs, inner thighs, maybe into those hips, lower bodies all tense till it quakes. Squeeze it tight. Exhale, release. Let it all go. Next round, squeezing your feet and your shins and your ankles. Squeeze your hands and your palms into fists. Squeeze your forearms and your elbows, squeezing up your thighs through your pelvis. Squeeze it tight, lower arms up to your upper arms, squeezing your body, feel your middle. Start to tighten, ribs down, pull on, squeezing yourself. Let it go. Take a big relaxed breath in between. Next breath in goes hands and feet, ankles and shins, forearms, knees and thighs, upper arms, armpits squeezing, shoulders, ribs, bellies all in, and glutes, lower back, upper back, neck, all the way into your jaw and your face. Make a funny face as you squeeze all the way up to your hair follicles, ears, and earlobes. You're gonna float off the ground. You're so tight, you're shivering with all that tension. Let it go. Big loose breath.
They say there's a war between the man and the woman.
Let yourself enjoy that softness for a few more quiet breaths.
I've never felt like this before. My heart knew that I could have. And then you take me in.
Let yourself roll to your side.
Like everybody needs a home, and when I die, like the world has never held a man. I know I cannot leave,
Come on.
but I will hold you here forever if I can. If I can.
Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope you're feeling stronger and also softer. See you next week.